Donald Trump is weakness masquerading as strength. That much we know. But as of lately, I feel like he wants us to see how weak and pathetic he is. It's why his hands are covered with makeup. It's why he runs away from the press. And the latest example of Donald Trump just showing us what a weak, insignificant little man he is might be the worst example yet, at least for Donald Trump. But dictators around the world, they love it, because Donald Trump's most recent Truth Social meltdown has Vladimir Putin, I'm sure, jumping for joy, because Trump has admitted it all and it is completely backfired. We're going to get into it, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into what Donald Trump posted about Vladimir Putin, this insane meltdown, we need to start with the context, and it comes from Senator Chris Murphy, who talked about what the result was the last time Trump and Putin met and why it is so important to this post he just made.
This war, dropping bombs relentlessly, despite the fact that there have been all of these sanctions imposed against him.
So he is right that sanctions have not had any practical impact thus far. But that is in part because our sanctions are directly levied on Russia. And there's very limited economic relationship between the United States and Russia. These next sanctions that we're talking about, that Congress is considering authorizing, are actually secondary sanctions, sanctions that would make it hard for Russia to continue to do business with countries like China and India, who are essentially funding the war. So this next set of sanctions could be much more impactful. The problem is, in the Senate, the Republican leader won't even bring up a vote, a debate on this bill, because Donald Trump doesn't even want a discussion about these sanctions, because he's so worried that it might upset his great friend Vladimir Putin. What is most impactful, and what will be most impactful on this war, are more weapons for Ukraine. And here's where Putin has the upper hand. So long as Trump is still opposed to continuing to arm Ukraine, Putin knows that it is just a matter of time before he can gain the advantage. So Putin walks away from the summit with no economic sanctions, with no sense that Trump is going to continue to send weapons to Ukraine, and essentially a green light to continue the war on his terms.
Let me ask you about this new reporting that we have, that basically President Trump did in a call with European allies, with President Zelensky, say that the United States would be willing to enter into a NATO-like security agreement, not including...
The cowardice of not just Trump, because we know he is an egomaniac, obsessed with strong men around the world, batting their eyelashes, patting him on the head, and telling him he's a good little Donald because his mommy and daddy never did. But the weakness of the Republicans around Donald Trump, who talk about being these staunch conservatives, and we love Ronald Reagan so much, and we're these tough guys, and we'll stand up to anyone, we'll stand up to the woke. But you won't stand up to this reality TV host running American foreign policy down the drain, just flushing the toilet on it. This history that we've had as leaders on the world stage, they don't seem to care at all. It is embarrassing. It is embarrassing that these guys are empty suits for Donald Trump. That is what is happening right now. That is the subservience to Putin. And that is what Donald Trump tried to spin when he was asked about Putin today. It's a little bit different than what he tweeted, and is why it's so important that we take a look at this clip.
China's having a massive military parade that President Putin and Kim Jong-un will be attending. Do you interpret that as a challenge to this? And are you concerned at all about those countries trying to be some sort of counterweight?
Not at all. China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know, but China needs us much more than we need them. No, I don't see that at all, no.
So this clip is a little bit different from the post that we are about to check out, and it's very important to get Donald Trump's psyche before and after the event that led him into such a meltdown. But he is always just talking about how great that meeting was. And it's very clear that Donald Trump didn't recognize that it was actually just a great meeting for Putin. That Putin was thrilled that he got to make a mockery of Trump, make a mockery of America. It was just a simple photo op for him. But of course, he's not going to be putting the pressure on Putin. But what did upset him, what did finally get him a little bit upset with Vlad, is the fact that his best buddy's cheating on him with other world leaders. And it's why Donald Trump made one of the most ridiculous posts yet, in which he just admitted how much he loves Vlad. Trump took to Truth Social to write, "The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as they conspire against the United States of America. President Donald J. Trump. Please give my warmest regards to Putin, the war criminal. Your warmest regards. So we can take this one of two ways. Either Donald Trump is finally upset with Putin, who he can tell is embarrassing him, by meeting with President Xi, meeting with Modi, the summit of world leaders, a military parade of which Donald Trump could only imagine turnout for, happening right around the world right now, happening in China, or the actual reality that Donald Trump is just furious that Putin is laughing with his other buddies and he's not mentioned and they're not talking about him and not calling him or returning his text messages or writing him nice letters anymore. And Donald Trump has admitted that he is in the palm of Putin's hand. That is what Donald Trump is showing. This is a guy who is always talking about the leverage with world leaders. He's always so concerned with the leverage and who has the cards. He always comes back to those ideas. Who's got the cards? Who's got the leverage? Donald Trump is always, with Vladimir Putin specifically, giving away the leverage. When you go into a negotiation, he just say, I think you're a swell guy, and I really like you a lot. And honestly, if you ask for something, I'm going to bend to it because, twink, I think you're fantastic. What leverage do you have? Donald Trump is continuously, whether through his stupidity, which is a real probable reason, or because of his love of Putin, undermining Ukraine's position and de facto the position of the United States. And that's what this post is. It is a meltdown that his buddies are hanging out without him because they don't like him, and probably because it's not safe for him to travel with those cankles right now. And an admission that I love Putin and he's my best buddy. And please send me a message soon. Where are the sanctions? Where's the pressure? Where's the end of the war that you promised on? None of it is coming. And it's not the only promise that Donald Trump has clearly broken recently. It's getting called out. That's the Epstein files. And Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, they're all over it right here.
We need to have the overarching value of trust in government be there. And in this case, as an exception, we should release everything and trust the American people to make a distinguishing discernment between someone who got a scholarship grant from Epstein and someone who was at a sex party for Epstein engaged in sex trafficking.
Congressman Massie, you know, one of the things that I find so striking here is that the Bureau of Prisons had to actively sign a waiver to move Ghislaine Maxwell to a facility that is so low security that by the department's own regulation, she cannot be in. And that happens after she met with Todd Blanche and she said that, you know, Donald Trump was always a perfect gentleman. Like, isn't there a role for some congressional oversight here about how exactly that came about?
Oh, absolutely. This is unprecedented, the kind of treatment that she's been given. I think the best way to clear President Trump's name is to release all the files. I actually don't think he's done anything criminal. I think he may be covering for some rich and powerful people that are friends of his. And in fact, some of those billionaires are running ads against me in Kentucky right now. One of them is in Epstein's black book. So we're getting close to the center of power here. And I think, embarrassment is not a reason to conceal all of this stuff. We've got to get it out in the open, regardless of whose friends might be incriminated.
Congressman Khanna, do you have a sense that take me through the actual timeline here, and do you have enough confirmed yeses to actually get the number you need? Because I've been covering Congress for 20 years, and I could list you 100 discharge petition stories I've covered, and I don't think I've ever covered one that got over the line.
Don't jinx us, Chris. Don't jinx us. We've got 212 Democrats, and Thomas Massie has done an extraordinary job. We have 4 Republicans already on the first day, so we only need 2 more. I just want to say this about Congressman Massie, and I hope I don't hurt him more in his district by saying nice things. But wherever you are on his ideology, he's a profile in courage. I mean, he's got billions of dollars being spent against him. He's got billions of dollars because people don't want the Epstein release. He's got billions of dollars because AIPAC has been attacking him because he's spoken out for human rights in Gaza. And we don't agree on everything, but I wish there were more members of Congress who voted their conviction and stood up for their conviction. And this would not be possible to get to 218 if it weren't for his leadership.
But don't give me too much of a compliment. If you dig into what he said, Ro Khanna is responsible for 212 of the signatures, and I have to get 6. He will probably get his 200.
Yeah, they're the harder six.
It's a much. Let me talk about the 4 who are already signed. So we just need 2 more, but it's myself and 3 women: Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. And these are women taking up for women. And I think we need more men on the Republican side of the aisle to step forward and do the right thing.
Final question for you, Congressman Massey. Is it your understanding the White House is whipping against the vote? That was reporting today, but has that been clear to you?
Oh, absolutely. I've talked to the person who's doing the whipping. I've seen the texts being sent to my colleagues. They are trying very hard to keep this from getting the requisite number of signatures to force the vote. And I think it's foolhardy. I think we'd be served better politically. Obviously, the victims would be served better in terms of justice, but Republicans would be served better politically by just following through on this promise and releasing the files.
Final question to you, Congressman Khanna. Can we expect, to the point we were making before about a lot of the stuff about Epstein has been reported, has been in the public, domain? I mean, Gawker wrote about the Black Book, 10 years ago, maybe? I think I read that piece, right? So a lot of this has been reported. Is it your expectation we will hear or see new things tomorrow from some of these survivors who are going to speak?
Absolutely, we will. And you know what we should listen to is the survivors. And they're saying for closure, they need the Epstein files released. And that's because they believe there's a lot of information in there about people who engaged in assault and abuse of young girls.
Keep talking about the Epstein files. Donald Trump wants us to shut up. We need to get louder. We're certainly going to on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. But until next time, I'll see you soon.